Mhm, mhm, mhm. Hi there, everybody. Welcome. My name is Salima, and welcome to Nourishing Time with Salima. And this is a free preview on the Blooming and Blossoming Room, which will be launching this September. And it's going to be a creative space for us to come together. A mindful space too. And we'll meet for 40 minutes each month, and typically it will consist of a poem and or a reading, sometimes a chant, and along with journaling prompts around the theme, all with the aim of helping you flourish. So the theme today is what are you growing? And this is taken from my post and podcast that I did last week. And so if you haven't read it, it might be a good idea to just like zoom over and take a look for that. Let me just move this over a tad and see where we are here. Okay. So basically the podcast and the post was all around what are you growing to bloom, and what does bloom mean? We often think of flowers and plants, but it may mean something more to you. So that's something to ponder on. And the piece was really looking at what I've learned from nature, from planting, and from gardening, and also the detours that I've taken to get to where I am, the detour of gardening, and how that's helped me sort of blossom into my work. So we're going to start with a poem. I'm going to read to you. I put the extract of an extract from this full poem that I'm going to read you into the post, but I'm going to read you the full, and we're going to sit and we're going to just listen to the words of that and see how that resonates for you, what basically works for you. Let me just check something on here, because I just want to check that this is working. Okay. Okay. Couple of technical difficulties. Ah, there we go. Right, perfect. Okay. So come with that. That's fine. Just wanted to check that that was all working. So, I welcome you to take a comfortable seat, and if you want to take a mudra with your hands, if you're a yogi, feel free, or place your hands in prayer position. One hand on the heart, one hand over the top, left hand on the heart, right hand on top. And we'll just take a few deep breaths before I read this poem and fully welcome you into this space. So let's close our eyes and take a few deep breaths here. Maybe a little smile. So welcome. And so the extract that I included in the post was just to give you an idea, or to get you pondering, basically, in terms of germination and growing. And so the part that I shared, this is for you in case you haven't read the post or listened to the podcast, is thank you for this miraculous day of reckoning. Thank you for your unpredictable weathers, which allows us to stay awake and aware, tuned in and tuned up. Bless the soul today for all of the little promises held safe. So I am going to now read you the full version from this beautiful book, Prayers of Honouring by Pixie Lighthouse. Bless the hillside fires that burn in holy honouring of the heat needed to hatch the seeds of the future. Talking about blooming in a slightly different way. Help us stay awake all night to tend to the coals of possibility. Help us to make out the dancers in the flames. Show us how to move our bodies like fire. Hold us high in our fertile possibility. Strike the match that relights our sacred inner lamps, which grow dim during cold, bleak times. Free us from the paralysis resulting from circular arguments which play over and over again in our minds. Just pause there for a moment. So the chant we're going to do is taken from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and it's all about getting rid of this paralysis of negative thinking or repeating the same cycle. So that's the chant we're going to do at the end. Remind us to get out of our heads and get outside. So this is really resonating with the last few pieces that I've written here on Substack about how good getting outside is, and especially when you're really stuck in your mind stuff with the mind matter. Remind us to get out of our heads and get outside, rain or shine, and shout our gratitudes for being alive under the first hot sunshine of the year. Awaken in us a ferocity and fever for what we know we are passionate about, but haven't yet found a way to express. Balance us with gentleness so that we handle the fragile with care. Oh, excuse me. Help us tone our discernment so that we know where to go when the road forks and our routes split into two. Help us to make repairs where needed in the time required for wholeness. Give us the visions and lead us to the people and to the wise inner guides who will help give birth to our best ideas. Prepare us with faith for our pregnant days to come. Let us know what we can do. Let us know that we can do this. Reinforce us for the coming season of planting and later the harvest. Remind us to think about what we want to reap so we can sow the right seeds. Humble us with your divine magic, which allows all things to grow. And that poem is called Honouring Germination. And the book is Prayers of Honouring by Pixie Lighthouse. And I was introduced to this by one of my teachers and mentors, Elena Brower. So, tuning in to the energy and the thread of that particular poem, I just want to double check my notes here. And I'm just going to do this and zoom out here for a moment. So, what does it mean to bloom, flourish, blossom? And do you feel that you are doing that right now? So I'm going to read some of the prompts from the post, and I'll add to that as we go through. So the first prompt for the inquiry is, what are you nurturing right now? What are you nurturing right now? So it could be literal, it could be something that you're watching grow in terms of vegetables, plants, flowers. It could be an idea that you're toying with, that you're doing some preparation around, maybe sketching out something. You're basically creating and nurturing something. You're creating as you go sometimes, with creative projects, for sure. I find that I throw a lot of stuff at the board and see what sticks, and then I have another set of notes that I nurture from these topics here. So what are you nurturing right now? What needs your attention in a positive way? So I guess when we are talking about flourishing and blooming, we really need to be aware. For that to happen successfully, we need to be aware of where we're using our energy and our attention. Like, what are we focusing on? And are you focusing on negative stuff, or are you really having positive, optimistic thoughts about what you want to see bloom? So what needs your attention in a positive way? What would you like to grow? So what are you nurturing? And then what would you like to grow? What would you like to seed? So something that she talks about here, like asking our inner self for what it is that we want to bring forth. So what would you like to grow? It can be anything. I mean, it doesn't have to be plants. It can be a relationship, a budding relationship, maybe a relationship that's in the beginning phases. It could be, like I say, it could be an idea that you want to see come to fruition, or an idea that you're expanding, or a passion that you're expanding. So it can be anything, not only plants. And it could also be a business. It could be an idea, relationship, like I say. So the next prompt is, what needs to evolve within you to facilitate or cultivate the grounds for you to bloom, for whatever it is to bloom? So what needs to evolve to facilitate that progression? It could be your thoughts. It could be you may need to make some changes on your day-to-day schedule. You may need to simplify certain things in your day-to-day schedule, weekly schedule, monthly schedule. So when you ask a question, what needs to evolve, there is normally something that you have to do to facilitate that evolution. So not necessarily a sacrifice, but you may need to review where you're at in order to help you evolve at a pace that you prefer to see, basically. So what I mean with that is, you don't want to end up getting stuck in procrastination. What would you like to see bloom? So really that goes hand in hand. It can go hand in hand with the first prompt, but what are you nurturing? What would you like to see bloom? What would you like to see grow? Just different ways of saying the same thing, but hopefully that will reinforce the theme that we're discussing here. Then, quite an important one, this one. What time frame can or will you give it? So this is where our patience is tested. And if you're a Sagittarius like me, my patience is very limited, and I have to really work at being patient and just, not plodding along, but like putting the work in, putting my intention behind it. And like with plants, actually, there's a certain amount of patience that's required from, when I give you a quick example, today I was taking some cornflower seeds that I have been seeding in my seeding tray, and I was asking my neighbor about was it time to plant them into small pots, and she said yes, you should plant them into small pots now is the time, but it's very fiddly to do, and boy was she right. And these things were tiny and they had long roots, these cornflowers, and I was like trying to get them in the pot, and I was like, oh, man, this is hard work. And I was like, no, it'd be worth it, because I've never grown anything from scratch in terms of flowers and plants, right? And so I thought, well, no, the end result is going to be worth it, so I'm just going to have to I'm just going to have to be really patient here and be meticulous with how I'm doing it. So what time frame will you give what it is that you're working on or you want to see bloom? And then probably the most important prompt is, what are you prepared to do to facilitate this growth and support the bloom? What are you prepared to do to facilitate this growth and support the bloom? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 prompts there. And that should get you going, basically. I suppose when we look at what stops us from flourishing, it is normally the negative mind stuff. And the post that I did yesterday, the podcast and the post yesterday, living life on your own terms, what it actually means and how to do it, is following on the thread of how negative thinking or being in negative energy can really prevent us from flourishing, from blossoming, from blooming, however you want to refer to it as. So these disturbing thoughts are tricky. They are tricky. So when I was teaching, I used to chant this chant a lot in class when I was teaching Jivamukti, because we used to, as I say, we used to chant this a lot with our students, because it was one of those things that when people are feeling down or they're not feeling quite right, you ask them why they're feeling like they are, and then they explain to you the situation, and just the way that you talk about it or the words that you use to describe the experience can have a negative impact. There's nothing new. You've probably heard thousands, millions of people say the same thing, but it's actually true. But the interesting thing with chanting is that if you chant regularly, and there's one chant that you're really drawn to, the frequency of the chant can really alter what's going on up here. And chanting is very powerful. And as I say, this sutra, sutra means verse in Sanskrit, is taken from Pada 2, which is Pada is a chapter. For the 4 or 5 chapters in the sutras, it's been a while since I read the whole sutras, but this is from verse 33, so you can Google that on the internet as well. If you have a Jivanmukti chant book, then perfect, you're perfect. So the chant is: when disturbed by disturbing thoughts, think of the opposite. Vitarka bardane pratipaksha bhavana. So normally we would do this if there was a group of us, and hopefully we will get to do this together as I move forward, and you join me. We would normally do call and response. A lot of people are scared of chanting or fearful of it, and I totally get that. But nothing is going to happen to you if you just sit and just let yourself move into the vibrations of the chant. Those of you that are more apt and more familiar, more comfortable chanting, then this is, I would say, probably one of the top 10 chants that people keep in their little toolbox to get rid of the natter of the mind. And I think I put a chant in to the post that I released yesterday. Yes, I did. So that was a more that's following on from here. That's more to do with the chittam, the consciousness, the vrittis, the whirlings of the mind. This chant is not so much the whirlings of the mind. So when your mind is going crazy and it's in overwhelm, this is basically directed towards if you are having really dark thoughts or negative thoughts, how to come out of that, basically. When disturbed by disturbing thoughts, think of the opposite. So even if you can find like one thread of positivity, or something that you really love, something you're really interested in, something that makes you feel happy, even if it's the smallest thing, it's enough to start turning the frequency around. And this is what chanting is all about. So I'm going to chant it a few times properly. And I'm going to have a sip of water, excuse me, because I've been out planting this morning. And there was so much dust and earth and everything, so I'm struggling a little bit at the moment. So I'm going to take a sip of water. And then I'm going to chant for you. Okay. Vitaka badane pratipaksha bhavanam. Vitaka badane pratipaksha bhavanam. Vitaka badane pratipaksha bhavanam. And then typically you would sit for a few moments after the chant, just to allow the vibration to really travel through you. So it resonates very deeply with you. And as I say, this is a great chant. Or you could literally just say the transliteration from this chant. When disturbed by disturbing thoughts, think of the opposite. When I'm disturbed by disturbing thoughts, think of the opposite. That will help me grow. That will help me grow what I want to grow. Okay, so that was a short introduction to what you can expect on the monthly meet that I will be doing from September. I will post the recording of this so you can access it in full. And I wasn't sure what time to do it, so I'm guessing now it's 25 past 4 on a Saturday, so people are probably out doing stuff. But if you do get a chance and you want to come along to the blossoming blooming room from September, then or circle, then please do. It would be really fun to have discussions with you all around these topics, around these themes, around the prompts, to get your feedback on the chant, if you're using the chant. So, you know, I hope you found that interesting somewhat, and somewhat helpful. If you want to check out the post from last week, then it is on my Substack. What are you growing to bloom? And yesterday, I normally release everything on a Saturday, but because I was doing this today, I released my weekly podcast newsletter post yesterday, so you can check that out. I can't miss it. It's blue sky. And somebody said to me, oh, it's like blue sky thinking. Yeah, true. It is like blue, you know, living life on your own terms, I suppose, is a little bit like using blue sky thinking, you know. So, but that's a topic for another time. I mean, may discuss that actually in September, but we'll see how we go. But for now, thank you for visiting me on my Substack, Nourishing Time with Salema. Please feel free to DM me if you've got any questions about the post podcast and this. Otherwise, thank you, friends, for watching, reading, listening, sharing, and I will see you soon.